go through life, we really don't change. We just become more of the same. You look around you as the years go by, and it seems a very valid premise. People don't change. As a matter of fact, most of us resist change very strongly. Yet change is a sure thing. The only variable is rate. The only variable is rate. The only variable is rate.
We trying to bring a change to enlighten our generation. So creation, the vibrations on this planet, gotta raise it.
Hello, hello. Grand day. Welcome, everybody. And thank you for joining us, whether you are tapping in live or tapping in another time space. Thank you for being here and joining us as we are live here to talk about what is a quite potent topic. And there's definitely a lot of different dimensions and a lot of layers that can go with this topic as well. And today we're going to kind of uncover a little bit and dive into some of the details of sovereignty, reclaiming our birthright, and what it looks like on multidimensional levels to be a sovereign co-creator that is one. And not just one, but one with the law of one with the creator, one with your higher purpose, so that you are flowing through this earth matrix in a way that is more free and more authentic to you. So today we are joined by our good brother, Michael Krystalline. And welcome, Michael.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for opening up the space.
Absolutely, man. It's an honor to have you today. And this is one of those topics that I'm sure a lot of us, excuse me, hydration check for everybody out there. Make sure you hydrate well. You know, this is one of those topics that I feel like a lot of us, and when I say a lot of us, I mean a lot of us, you know, growing up as kids, all the way back to our junior high and high school days, you know, we talk about conspiracy theories, we talk about the government, we talk about all these different things like corruption and war and the quote unquote one percenters and the elites. So, you know, today we're going to be talking about something kind of similar along those lines, but more of the mature and the more factual and the more truth of what is and what we're navigating in this third dimension. So Michael, man, I'll go ahead and hand over to you if you would like to break us open and kind of help us explore this wonderful topic today.
Yeah, so I guess for me, sovereignty would be standing firm within yourself and standing firm within your center, your heart, your mind, and the gut, the self-realized potential of being a co-creative being one that adds to the reality and also sometimes destroys things that are no longer aligned with who we are as creators or the reality that we wish to see manifest, right? So that entails a lot of things. Multidimensionally, it all starts within. We have to bring what we have within us out into the external by allowing our own vibration to set the pace and set the tone for what we want to experience. We don't get to just sit back and allow things to happen. After we get to a certain point, We kind of have to start asking creator and asking ourselves as our own creator, if we get to that certain point where we can become aware that we have the potential within us to create our own universe. We have the potential within us to create multiple universes within our mind and within our heart, within our entire microcosm. We contain a piece of all that is, like a small piece of the universal soul, the collective, which is what many call it, is all contained within us. We are a piece of the whole and a piece of the world soul. So, due to that, we have the ability, the same abilities that Creator does to create, we have within us. We are able to, on a smaller scale, of course. We can't just, well, maybe we can. Maybe we can just change reality just by thinking it. I believe we can. I personally believe that within our own ability to think and feel the vibration of what we want to experience, if we are not limiting ourselves and we don't have those energetic blocks in place still, that actually does come into manifestation. It might be slow, it might be quick, it might take a long time and a lot of effort. I don't believe that we can do it solely with the power of our minds. I think we still have to be putting in physical effort to achieve our goals. There's a balance that needs to be maintained of building in the physical and building on the spiritual. I don't know, does all that resonate? I hope.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. And to continue on with that, I feel like there's many different layers of sovereignty, as we've said. And it's like, we could touch on mental sovereignty, we could touch on emotional sovereignty, we could touch on, physical sovereignty.
Yeah.
And I guess you can say also spiritual sovereignty as well. And with that being said, I feel like they're all applicable, and I feel like they're all something to focus on if you're someone that is trying to achieve a sovereign state of being.
Yeah.
And for me, I kind of like to take steps. Steps are huge when it comes to transforming and growing and also obtaining something that is very, very treacherous of a journey in this world. So for me, it's like, okay, if I don't have the finances, I don't have the resources to get my own land and be off grid and things like that, then where can I start? Well, I can start in the other dimensions of myself, as in I can start mentally becoming sovereign, I can start emotionally becoming sovereign, and I can, with my body and my health, start becoming sovereign. Now, when it comes to being mentally sovereign, what does that mean? Well, if we're trying to be sovereign in a sense of our mental self, and we're constantly attached to what other people think about us, we're constantly attached to who's doing this, what this person's gonna think, what are they gonna do? Are they overcoming their problems? Do I need to help them? If we're constantly giving our mental energy to all these different avenues through mental cords, then it's likely we're not going to be in a sovereign state of being, because we're going to be in a codependent, narcissistic, dualistic, always going back and forth mindset. And along with this, we could also be leaking out our precious vital energy in every moment due to those cords and attachments. That's why we say, we don't want to have people living rent-free in our head, because what's going on is that they're taking your mentalism, they're taking your mental energy and focus. And if we're just allowing that to continuously happen, then it's likely we're not going to have enough power within us mentally to even feel close to sovereign, because we don't even have the energy mentally to put the time in, put the energy in, put the effort in to start thinking for ourselves completely, reprogramming our subconscious mind. Reprogramming, I mean, that's a huge topic in itself when it comes to your sovereignty. You
Yeah.
know, are you mentally even programmed to your soul star blueprint, your organic blueprint system of who you are beyond this worldly identity? Um, so yeah, there's a lot that can go with it. And for me, if you don't have the physical tools to become sovereign in that type of sense, you can always start with the mental. Become mentally sovereign, cutting those cords, healing from those memories, clearing those traumas, and really feeling and thinking for your own self authentically on what it is that you want to be and what you want to achieve. And then you can move into your emotions as well. And the emotions is dealing with, you know, kind of similar to the mental, like, not identifying our emotions based off the world, based off of other people, people pleasing, caregiving, putting others before us, or if we're in constant depression, if we're suicidal, those are the type of things that we want to address with ourselves so that we can feel empowered within ourselves. Because, big thing with sovereignty is really like feeling empowered within yourself naturally. But what do you think about all that?
Yeah. So my thoughts are that the mental and the emotional sovereignty actually comes first. I don't think you can achieve physical sovereignty without being on your throne, centered and balanced, whole within yourself, knowing that you have the power to do all this, knowing that you are the one who has to physically manifest it. And until that mental is where it needs to be, and those emotions in the heart are balanced and centered, and you're not able to be swayed by the external, like, because you are going to have challenges, you're going to have tribulations, you're going to have trials going through this process. You're not just going to be able to, it's not going to be easy. And if it is, then it could be easy, but it's most likely you're going to have setbacks, you're going to have things pushing back, because the matrix does not want you to disconnect from it. It doesn't want you to start having your own life force contained entirely within you and to be self-sufficient and not relying upon the constructs that are already built and already exist, to siphon your energy and to use your own creative power to maintain its construct. So being able to be centered and balanced within your emotional states, within your mental states, not being able to be knocked off your center point, that fulcrum, where the scale sits, right? You don't want to be able to be knocked too far onto one side or too far onto the other side. You want to be able to be balanced on both sides, level, and just swaying occasionally. So that way you still ride the waves, you just don't allow them to knock you off the surfboard, right? Yeah, so I guess that's where I'm at with that as far as the emotional and mental. And there's a lot, you're right, there's a lot of levels of unprogramming that we have to do. We have to unlearn a lot of stuff that we have picked up from the reality about how powerless we are, about how unable we are to affect change within the world, because really we don't have to affect the entire world with our like overarching programs. We just have to be able to affect change within our own lives and within the circle of people that we choose to surround ourselves with, right? Like all that bigger stuff can come later on, right?
Well said. And again, like, circles back to steps. Like, we gotta give ourselves some type of steps to trace, some type of conscious awareness of just like benchmarkers, so to say.
Yeah.
You don't want to be too far into that degree where you're attached always, but when you find that balance where, you have benchmarkers, and then, in between those benchmarkers, you allow yourself to be in surrender, or you allow yourself to be in the openness, or you're feminine. And then you create in between those benchmarkers, and then those benchmarkers can almost be like cornerstones for you, or like different goal marks. And then
I like looking at them as like save points. Like, once you've achieved a certain level, you can always go back to that point and start from that ground up, right? The foundation point where you can go back to there and be like, okay, well, that didn't work. Let's try it again.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, a part of also being like in a sovereign state of being for everybody out there is, gosh, there's like so many downloads that want to come through on this, but a big part of it is just coming back to this is a deep one, just coming back to the remembrance that you're connected to the source in the first place. That right there is, because that, once you get to that and you hit that embodiment state where that's like your normal and your subconscious, when that happens, it's a different level of sovereignty than, we typically talk about when it comes to the world. It's like, oh boy, it's like a place of sovereignty beyond sovereignty, because it's more of just the eternal flow. And when you get there, you can become in a really, really powerful space mentally. And what I mean by that is, instead of seeing anything separate from you, which is very, very extremely difficult to do in this human body. Like, even, for example, like us thinking that this room is separate, like we think anything outside of us is separate, So like when you're actually in that natural state of like fully embodied, like not thinking about, not confused, not sitting there trying to put your emotions to it, and you're actually in that state of like complete source everything and there's no identification, then you really achieve a level of sovereignty that is eternal, basically, where you just realize it's all you. And all you as in way beyond Marcus, way beyond Michael, but literally every single thing that could ever be fathomed and not fathomed and is and was and to be experiencing itself. Now, when you achieve that awareness and get into that embodiment, which is kind of like where I'm continuing to tread and continuing to grow and evolve, it really brings a lot of peace. It brings a lot of unconditional love. But it's tricky too, because it's like it's almost like a 12th dimensional awareness, so to say, for example. I mean, I'm sure it's something else, but just to use something as a broad example. So like the thing is, like, we have to try to bring that into our body. We have to try to embody that type of dimension into our third dimensional body. So that can be quite a journey in itself, and that can be very difficult to do. And with that being said, try not to get caught in almost like a spiritual psychosis, where you're too far in the light because you realize that you're the I am, but then you forget to ground yourself into your physical reality, and you forget that you have to have accountability, you got to take action, you got to align your physical with your mental to manifest properly, and along with that, to be able to embody the higher belief system as well. So I'm not sure where that came from, that specific download, but I'll hand it over to you after that.
So yeah, so what I'm hearing there is that sometimes you can get too far into the ethers, right? And then you can actually neglect your physical, and that can allow a lot of sovereignty to be lost, actually, because people can kind of tread on you a little bit too much if you are so far off in the clouds. You're neglecting the physical. You're like, oh, like everything is energy. I'm just gonna give all my stuff away. I'm just gonna do all this other stuff. You lose track of your own physical goals sometimes when you're just in that ultimate state of unconditional love and bliss. And we can kind of get too far off into the clouds. We lose sight of what matters on the physical reality, and then in that regard, we're losing track of the human stuff, right? We're going so far off into the dimensions above. We're forgetting about the below.
Yep, exactly. It's about that balance.
And that's the same thing can kind of happen if you're dreaming too much. If you get too far into the lucid dreaming and the astrals, and you start really building there, sometimes you can actually forget that this reality even exists, because you're just like, oh, I've been asleep for like 16 hours. I just want to go back to wherever I was at. Like, I'm not even worried about this. You just like get up, go to the bathroom, go back and lay down again. You know what I mean? But yeah, so that kind of thing can happen too, where you neglect the physical form because, and I do sometimes feel that is somewhat what people get into when they do these epically long fasts. They kind of forget that they need to be grounded. They kind of forget that they need sustenance. Their body does need some sort of fuel. I know there's the whole like breatharian thing. I just don't think most people are physically there yet. Well, I'm probably just speaking for myself, but I guess for me, I feel like I'm often channeling so much energy that I do need heavier foods to stay grounded, because otherwise I'll be off in the stars all day, every day, and that leads to a lot of neglect for the physical form and a lot of, I guess, just not giving a fuck, right? Like, basically, that's what it boils down to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I had written down here, stepping into your own internal guide dance. So allowing yourself to be guided, but also knowing that you need to stay centered within your own awareness. And I find social media is a huge trap for that. We tend to just kind of constantly looking outside of ourselves for information. And it's usually good information that we're receiving from the channels, the algorithms, but a lot of the times we're not listening to the messages that are coming through for our own through our own channels. Because of that, we kind of lose track of the messages are going to come through either way. I guess I just find that there's a lot of wisdom in writing down your own channel messages and writing down your own information rather than always looking outside of yourself. There's a really good Upanishad about a monk that stumbles upon this guy in the middle of the woods, and he's sitting in this pond, and he's like, only his head and his torso are above the water, and he's out on the side of the pond, and he's licking the dewdrops off the grass. So he's trying to constantly lick the dewdrops off the grass. The monk says, "What are you doing, sir? Like, you're sitting in a pond of clear, clean water, and why are you doing this? Just like relax and let yourself go and float back into the pond. You'll be able to drink as much water as you want." And the guy says, No, there's no water here. And he's not seeing that he's already connected to the all that is. He's always looking for these little droplets of dew and these little pieces of gems and wisdom outside of himself, not realizing he's connected to the pond already. I don't know if that came through clear enough or not. I could elaborate a little bit if it didn't, but so that's just kind of a little lesson about not looking too much outside of your own guidance, because that's a big part of being sovereign, is using your own internal guidance and your own teams and whatnot to direct your path. Because if you're always looking for advice and always looking for the next big piece of wisdom outside of yourself, you're losing some of those messages that are coming through for you, because you're always looking, always looking. Sometimes we just need to sit back and let the information come through.
Wow. Yep. That is so good. So now that we've touched a little bit upon mental and spiritual, emotional sovereignty, I think this would be a good time to segue into, physical sovereignty. And with that, kind of break open the layers of, birth certificates, social security numbers, straw mans, and what these terminologies and concepts are, and, how to navigate a sovereign mindset now that we remember who we are spiritually and mentally, with these concepts, these straw mans, these corporations, and the difference between identifying as them and being a owner or being a master or king or queen of our straw man or of our corporations. So I'll go ahead and hand over to you. And if you have anything regarding those, feel free to share.
Yeah, so there's a really good website that talks a lot about this, and it's called, I can put it in the chat actually.
I can pull it up. What's it called?
IDs Illegal at WordPress or .wordpress.com.
You said IDs legal?
Yeah, IDS illegal.wordpress.com. Okay, I put it in the chat too. Found it? So this is like this kind of like almost like an essay this guy wrote, but it just kind of decodes the legalese and the way that the verbal contracts happen within the quote unquote legal system. Yeah, so this is a Latin phrase here is it's a clause or within international treaty law that this guy found that basically allows you to back out of any treaty that you weren't fully aware of the terms of. So he has adapted it to be applied to the birth certificate. Because obviously we were entered into this treaty or agreement without our knowledge before we were even born. And that's a treaty which siphons our life force energy and our birthright as a divine creative being. It kind of takes all of our essence and puts it onto this piece of paper and makes it so we are part of this system that we probably wouldn't have agreed to had we known the full consequences of agreeing to that, right? There's a lot of benefits too, like Social Security and stuff, but there's also quite a few more cons that are being played out upon the people. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't know if you want to just kind of broad strokes here, but see, like it tells you, it breaks everything down, like id entity, and then legal entity, and then this is what the lawyers do within court system, is they can change what you actually say, like physically. That's why it's called a hearing, because they're able to change what they hear and spell it differently. They're able to write it, when they write it down, they can write it however they want to write it down. So they can change what you say and put it as phonetically a different meaning entirely as to what you're saying. So, yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, so this section would be good to read. So, for example, a phonics deception is where one thing is spoken by a non-bar member, general public, any / all legal name users without bar affiliations or permissions, only to be respelled differently by any / all bar members under assumption and presumption to corrupt the original intent of the one speaking versus spelling it out, and why a fraudulent by deliberate design. Can you scroll down a bit? Legal name non-bar member has no voice in the legal dead reality. In other words, one's words spoken cannot be altered from the speaker's original true intent as to what they mean versus what the one hearing the spoken form of the word hears, and then corrupts them and their spoken words by using alternative spellings under assumption / presumption of the same sound homonyms with completely different definitions, using this spelling trickery to undo them and to gain the honor advantage where no honor in them exists, and the non-bar member is rendered in a state of perpetual dishonor unknowingly, i.e. twist them, the non-bar member speaking / their spoken words spoken backwards / around / opposes / negates / corrupts the speaker's original intent to initiate and perpetuate / instigate fraud against them, to enable imaginary crimes, to profit from statutory commercial rape / kidnapping, etc. and at all. Thus, by court proceedings are called hearings, where spellings is a more precise term for what is really going on. Thus, this is spelling it out clearly, where assumption and presumption is rendered null and void, where any / all use claiming to be a legal name entity has everyone in the original sin / sign state of fraud from the creation of and continued use of the legal name that appears on every birth certificate, until they remove themselves from the criminal legal reality where anyone involved in the enforcement of this fraud using violence, trickery, coercion, etc. at all to ensnare with intent to enslave another is in fact aiding and abetting a criminal act by forcing another into submission, where its use where this truth has been exposed and where it is illegal to use any / all legal names / titles ab initio. So this will give you an example of like what can happen in court. So a typical courtroom drama example: unwitting legal name deafened ent. So ent is a suffix which in Latin means mind. So like when you have government, it means to control the mind. Government, right? So government actually etymologically translates to mind control. I do not consent, spoken with the intent of no wish to consent, intended where the bar member, aka judge, lawyer, cop, etc., can and will assume / presume in full / fool honor the words phonetically as to how they want to hear it, and has respelled it verbal / for Baal, which is a Phoenician deity. I, like as an I, like a pirate, basically. Do not consent. So I means yes, affirmative and tacit agreement instantly. Do as in debt tacit agreement. Not as in tied and bound. Tacit agreement to slavery. And con means both with / for and against / without equally as a prefix. Also means thief or criminal in common vernacular terms, etc. C is Latin for himself, herself, itself, which is the entire essence of the speaker involved, and ent is a suffix meaning mind etymologically. In short, the ones perpetuating and profiting from this legal name fraud, deception, can hear whatever they choose to hear. Slash hear and can slash will in full honor respell every word uttered at every hearing because it wasn't spelled out by the speaker in writing, where it can be respelled by the bar members' criminal intentions to incriminate all innocent and guilty individuals equally, thus painting all of humanity with the same criminal brush they've been painted with, and simply passing the buck to make a buck of sin slash sign to another, rewriting by respelling the speaker's words against them to create the bar members slash servant by oath advantage every time in every legal reality situation. This deception slash ruse slash criminal enterprise is over, where truth in itself is all the vengeance one needs in a white flag state of truce, not surrender stance, and where all criminals perpetuating this crime against humanity are now fully exposed for all to see. It's illegal to use a legal name, and is a legal fact. So this is just kind of a broad overview here, but so clausula rebus sextantibus, as it pertains to birth certificates, any slash all contracts, treaties, hereafter shown spelled as CRSS or in full commonly referred to as the escape clause, in legal public international law, clausula rebus sextantibus, Latin for things thus standing, is the legal doctrine allowing for treaties slash contracts to become inapplicable, non-protunct, where any slash all fraud revealed renders any slash all contracts null and void, ab initio, ad infinitum, non-protunct, tunct pronunged, which means now for then for now in Latin, eliminating all time periods related to the contract's existence in the first place because of a fundamental change of circumstances, whereas it's illegal to use a legal name, birth certificate name slash title, where the intent to create a fraudulent third party is evidenced in any slash all birth certificates. So that fraudulent third party is what like the straw man is talking about. It's a fictional entity that only exists on a piece of paper, which is like the all caps name, right? It's evidenced by in any slash all birth certificates by the very existence of the birth certificate as self-evident. The escape clause is essentially and fundamentally purposed as an escape clause that makes an exception to the general rule of pacta sunt servanda, which is promises must be kept, thus removing all prior slash previous assumptions and or presumptions, any slash all parties, legal and otherwise, to the contrary, where this fraud is revealed. Because the doctrine poses a risk to the security or securities, aka money, of treaties slash contracts, where those profiting from this by design fraud, by exposing this intent to commit fraud, and those perpetuating it as its scope is relatively slash completely unconfined slash without borders, it requires strict legal regulations as to the conditions in which it can be invoked, where only those claiming to be legal ID entities within the legal reality confines are concerned, and where one is no longer deemed a legal entity thereafter, since this is the last legal act in the common sense of the definitions of one who was formerly deceived by the legal name slash birth certificate fraud, where it is now known to be fraud, and where the one invoking this clause no longer wishes to commit legal name fraud, any crimes against another one whatsoever, while removing all traces of the former id entity from theirs and everyone else's reality, regardless of the aiding and abetting attempts of slash by slash for slash in fraud by various Crown Corporation agents to elicit force, demand slash coerce, etc. at all, anyone slash all who have stated and shown otherwise. And then this goes into the part, like where this law can be found, and the justifications for it. I think we should maybe take a little break for now.
For sure.
Of going through this, but we'll have it in the chat, and I guess everyone can go check it out for themselves. But it essentially details a process that you can do to actually completely escape the legal system. And of course, you have to be willing to like guarantee you're not going to be committing crimes. We still can't be going around killing people and all that stuff, stealing and all that stuff we know is morally terrible for you to do. We have to know that there's a lot of imaginary crimes that have been made up to get money out of people, basically. But yeah.
That's a lot to unpack.
Yeah. The first time I found that website, I was just like, whoa, this is like a huge like whole thing. I've known about that website now for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, but that website is wild. The first time I stumbled upon that, I was just like, what did I just find? This is like the keys to the Matrix right here.
Yeah. That wide open too. I just like, I definitely saved it to my favorites. I was like, yep, nice. This one in the favorites.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, everybody, I honestly, like, I'm not even going to try to push any more knowledge on you guys. I'm not even going to give any more information or opinion, to be honest. Like, that's some hefty stuff to process. And I can even feel it in my own psychology rewiring. So, you know, I'll have that website posted down below in the description so you guys can access at any time. And there's just a lot to consider and a lot to reflect on and a lot to just marinate in when it comes to this type of information, whether it's about, you know, change or just coming to a realization of where you are and what we're in and what you're experiencing, or just coming to the realization of who you are and, you know, your existence through this type of information. And I'd love to hear you guys' feedback. You know, if you guys have anything to add or any type of resources or any questions, feel free to drop them below in the comments. And you guys can always reach out to us as well. And we, of course, offer many different energy and holistic services. I myself, from Reiki to life coaching to meditations to chakra healing, inner child healing, and much more. And then, Michael, I'll go ahead and let you talk about what you offer as well.
Yeah, so primarily I just offer like guidance, basically, to whoever needs it. I believe in like open source type of activities. I think that there's a lot of, I guess, energy leeching that goes on within the spiritual community. People like way overcharging for services that these gifts were given to them for free, like, or at least for their own efforts. And I believe we're supposed to be sharing freely amongst each other. Like, it can be an energy exchange. Like, let's say you know how to do this, I know how to do this. Let's collaborate. Let's help each other out. That's my philosophy.
Absolutely. All with balance.
But, so yeah, of course, it has to be a give and take. But yeah, I do Reiki, I do energy work, grid work, land activations. I can do ancestral and like galactic healing for different ailments that can come up. I'm kind of stepping into my role as a healer, so I'm still on the I still need practice, basically. But yeah.
Well, you definitely offer some wonderful 12D activations, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah. And then another thing I do like locally is crystal grid meditations. So that's in like the Ontario area, Canada. But yeah, if you're local to that area, feel free to add me up, and we can get in touch. I know you're not too far away either. You're across the border though, so we'll have to connect at some point. But I'm sure that's in the cards for the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm local in Ohio for everybody out there. I'm in the Cincinnati area. I do host retreats. I also do smaller events. I do workshops in Columbus, Cincinnati, Dayton, and I'm always open to travel. So like, if you even live in a different state and you got a community out there and you guys are into retreats, you guys are into events, you can always hit me up, and maybe I'll be open to coming out and setting up out there, and you guys can have a Sacred Light retreat or a Sacred Light event going on. Same with other countries as well. You know, I got a passport. I love traveling, and I love spreading the light and the knowledge. So just reach out anytime, people. I also have an online community, and I also have workshops online that are donation based. I just suggest subscribing, following me, and keeping up if you guys want to be a part of the stuff, because we got a lot of stuff going on online and in person, and it's going to be continuous and ever flowing. So just follow, reach out, subscribe, and thank you for being a part of this journey with us. Michael, what do you think about doing a part 2 of this topic here?
Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah. I feel like, you know, this was a hefty amount to unpack, and it was like perfect for one episode.
Yeah.
But there is definitely a lot more layers and some other aspects and details to talk about as well.
Yeah. I feel like that website was like an overload for probably most people. So,
Almost for me.
yeah. So, yeah, we'll definitely have to come back into this space again and do another episode. I think that's a great idea.
Absolutely. And thank you to all of you guys that tapped in while this was live. Thank you for your comments on the Facebook side and Instagram. And for everybody out there, have a blessed and beautiful Tuesday or whatever time and space you're experiencing. And just reach out if you need anything. Wholeness and balanced love.